Welcome to an overview of veterans' patient rights and safety in a post-comprehensive addiction and recovery act world of opioid prohibition and curated patient outcome reporting. Veterans' healthcare, a systemic betrayal. Today, we expose how policy has silenced our veterans and the dire consequences this has had. The silencing of veterans. Veterans, trained to speak up and act decisively, are now being silenced. When they report healthcare errors under 38 CFR 17.33, instead of addressing the issue, they're often branded as threats under the guise of workplace violence. Patient abuse in the spotlight. High-profile cases have emerged where veterans faced not only medical errors but also abuse when seeking redress. Ex-posts reveal instances where veterans like Major Fishback, who reported mistreatment, were retaliated against. The VHA's misuse of authority has turned advocacy into a punishable act. The painful reality. Veterans' primary complaints revolve around untreated pain, a critical issue that the VHA often misuses. Instead of providing relief, this pain is weaponized against them, leading to them being placed on VHA Directive 1112, which labels them as part of the disruptive behavior program. The disruptive label. Being red flagged under this program isn't just a mark on their record. It's a scarlet letter that follows them through the healthcare system. It discourages future complaints, creating a chilling effect where veterans fear to speak up, fearing further punitive action. The dire consequence, rising suicide rates. This silencing has a tragic outcome, increased suicide rates among veterans. When those who have served are denied their voice, their pain, both physical and emotional, becomes unbearable. Studies show that unresolved issues in healthcare, particularly around pain management, correlate with higher suicide risk among this group. The systemic failure. The oversight that should catch these systemic issues has failed by design. TLRA's focus on reducing opioid distribution has inadvertently created an environment where veterans' healthcare needs are neglected, their complaints dismissed, and their advocacy for better care is seen as disruptive. The Battle Creek Incident. Consider the case at Battle Creek VMC, where veterans were labeled as threats for merely trying to secure proper treatment. This isn't an isolated incident, but part of a pattern where the VHA's response to complaints is punitive, not reformative. A call to arms. We must demand accountability. The VHA needs to realign its focus to serve those who've served us. Veterans' voices must be heard, not silenced. The misuse of policies like disruptive behavior to stifle legitimate healthcare grievances must end. Conclusion. Veterans' healthcare isn't just about treatment. It's about dignity and respect. We owe it to our veterans to ensure their healthcare system listens, acts with compassion, and provides care without fear of reprisal. Let's work towards a future where our veterans are not seen as threats, but as valued members of our community deserving of the best care. Thank you for your attention. Remember, the true measure of a nation's gratitude is reflected in how it treats its veterans. Next, let's look at the smirking Asheville Senator Manchin as he tells us what Sen Sheldon Whitehouse 2016 CARA did to veterans' rights.
I was at, we've had some problems, in some of the deaths that we had in one of our hospitals. But I was there talking about substance abuse. And I had one of the nurses who was very straightforward. And she says, well, if you all didn't call and raise so much cane with us because we won't give veterans their drugs they want, because if we don't give it to them, they would call and rate that service at that hospital as poor and give them poor ratings, which brought more scrutiny. Are you familiar with all this?
So I understand the concern they're fighting. I'm not familiar with the specific statistics.
You know if that's been changed. Piece of legislation that changed, you cannot complain about the disbursement of drugs, because I can tell you a lot of the veterans knew exactly. They knew more than the pharmacists knew about what drugs they wanted and why they wanted them. And they would determine to get those drugs. And if they didn't, they would call their representatives with senators or congresspeople and complain they were getting poor service. And we found it was mostly over drug dispensing.
If I could just add, though, it is a fair concern. The pendulum has swung dramatically, and veterans who are on chronic opioid or any type of chronic pain treatment to aggressively taper is not an appropriate form of management.
Kind of real-time feedback chain you got going.
So in addition to the patient satisfaction surveys that we use, we also have a veteran experience that looks at how we can improve and what we've done. And with that, I'll turn it over to Drew because he's got some really great, robust information.
Yes, sir. So each of the outpatient journeys has a stop code that's associated with a particular type of clinic. And the stop code that's associated with amputation, the scores are remarkably high among ease, effectiveness, emotional resonance, and transparency, equity. The lowest score on this for this quarter is 83.5. That's graded on a Likert score of 1 through 5. If they give us a 4, I trust, I agree with the statement made, or I strongly agree, then we consider that an indication of satisfaction with that particular piece. 93% overall satisfaction and 89.4% in overall quality. And these are assessed by ongoing. What triggers the survey is a visit to the amputation clinic, and then the veteran receives a survey. It's not 100%. It's not a canvas. It's surveys. But out of this one, this quarter, we've received 384 responses from veterans who were seen for amputee.
And if I
A critical look at CARA's impact on veterans. In 2016, President Obama signed into law the Comprehensive Addiction and Recovery Act, known as CARA, aimed at tackling the opioid crisis head-on. However, beyond its surface intentions, there are critical issues that need addressing, especially for those serving our nation, our veterans. Introduction. CARA was introduced as a beacon of hope, the first major federal addiction legislation in 40 years. It promised a comprehensive response to the opioid epidemic, but how has it affected the veterans who risked everything for us? End of protected patient reporting. One of CARA's provisions involves reviewing complaints about prescription drug access. While this might sound beneficial, it raises concerns. Veterans might fear their privacy is at stake or face stigma for reporting issues, potentially leading to underreported cases of inadequate care or treatment. Malpractice and abuse within VHA. Another contentious aspect is the potential increase in malpractice and abuse by VHA providers. With more discretion given to providers to label veterans at risk, there's a thin line between personalized treatment and potential overreach or neglect. The lack of robust oversight could mean veterans are left vulnerable. Legally and ethically, veterans might find themselves in a bind. Reporting issues can be daunting, with fears of retaliation like reduced care quality looming large. The question arises, how can we ensure veterans' rights are not overlooked in the name of treatment? The implementation of CARA needs a critical eye. We must ask, are we truly protecting our veterans? There's a call for transparent complaint mechanisms where veterans feel safe to voice concerns, regular, external audits of VHA practices to prevent misconduct, education for veterans about their rights and how to assert them. CARA's intent was to heal, but its execution must be revisited to ensure it does not harm. It's not just about providing treatment but safeguarding the dignity and rights of every veteran. The journey towards recovery should not compromise the very freedoms they fought to protect.